Good morning, Sin City, and welcome to another episode of the Social Media Show. We have a very special guest in the building today, Dylan Jorgensen. Dylan, welcome.
I don't know, very special. Might be a little overblown.
Special guest, nonetheless.
Okay.
No, it's a treat to have you here,
pleasure.
Dylan. You are the host of the Downtown Podcast, so it's cool to interview another host here in town. Very cool.
Well, it's cool for me to finally be in a real studio. I mean, our podcast is just a bunch of crap pushed against the corner of in a living room, so...
But that's what
step up.
You guys do it very well. You guys do it very well. And we'll get to that here in a second. So for those that don't know you, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you ended up here in Las Vegas.
I mean, it seems like a story of serendipity. Kind of a lot of the people who are downtown come from different walks of life in different places. And we grew up in Utah. Me and a couple co-founders built a company called TicketCake.com that works with the Sundance Film Festival's nightlife. And just out of really randomness, we kind of were taking a lot of trips out to San Francisco because we sort of have a tech connection out there, and it just comes through Vegas. And our co-founder was really just really good with social media, ended up linking up with a downtown project before they really got going, like in the really, really early stages, even though it's still kind of small, but like really early on. Right. And we just happened to make some great connections and saw what Tony was building downtown and like a lot of the energy of entrepreneurship out here, and sort of just fell in love with it. So, I mean, total random story. I mean, the big key points that made my life change in this direction were all just random little luck, and social media was a big part of that. So it seemed like it'd be fun to come on here and talk about some of that.
No, absolutely. So Vegas, you never would have thought that you would have ended up here. Probably Silicon Valley for a while. That's what everyone thinks when they think tech.
we're in the ticketing space, so we wanted a place that had tech and events. So Austin and Seattle kind of pop up to that list. Those might have been a little bit more likely than San Francisco, but San Francisco is also where the investments are. That's where a lot of the money is, and that would be the primary driver really when it comes down to it. And we came out here and just had the perfect blend. We were like, and we found this huge niche within conferences that we didn't even see. It was right in front of us, and we were kind of focused on concerts, and all of a sudden it all just sort of came together. We're like, look, there is a huge market here that we couldn't even see, and there's the money and the people, and even way above all that other stuff was the entrepreneurship of and community help that all just came together to make really the ideal situation. We couldn't be happier with what's going on. So
absolutely. And for people that don't know what TicketCake exactly does, what exactly do you guys do?
So you kind of think of us like a competitor to Ticketmaster or Eventbrite, but we also have a back end push. So a lot of times we call it Ticketmaster meets Salesforce. So if you're actually throwing an event, we try to work with really big events that can utilize 2 or 3% bump in sales, where we can go in and look at the way they're spending advertising and really track that all the way through their websites. And then one of the things Ticketmaster doesn't allow is once the ticket, somebody gets sent to their website to buy a ticket, they don't share that information back with the event organizer, which we do, and we package it together with their advertising campaign and the amount of people that showed up, and really helps them get a full circle visual of how much money they spent on advertising and who attended the event and how the event went, and that's sort of our sale that our competitors don't have. So we focus on just anyone who's throwing a really big event, a lot of big festivals, a lot of big concerts, and sometimes conferences, things like that.
There's definitely not a shortage of that.
No, there's just 19,000 conferences come through Vegas every year. I mean, that's insane. That's half of everyone in the country. It's really a great place to be for that.
Oh, that's awesome. So you started in Salt Lake, though, Utah, right?
God.
This will all be edited.
No, don't. Keep it. That's me. That's the truth. Don't censor me in my coughing. So anyways, I guess you guys got something in this bottled water here, but I don't know. I kind of forgot the question. What were we talking about?
I think Salt Lake. You started in Salt Lake.
Yeah. So I was thinking about how much I didn't want to cough right then, which only made it worse,
Right.
But yeah, we grew up in Utah. The three of us, I have two co-founders, Joe Henrigad and Jackie Jensen, and we all went to the University of Utah.
Okay, cool.
Or actually Joe didn't, but we all met in Utah and kind of built up our thing there. But yeah, I mean, coincidentally, we had a company before TicketCake, which was a web and graphics development company, and we worked with the night clubs and the venues in Utah. And the weird thing about that is they're really not these world famous clubs or anything, but because Sundance moves in for 10 days every year, they blow up. All this stuff in Park City turns into just mega events. And so because we had these relationships with them throughout the year, once again, just random luck seemed like we just were able to get right on board with Sundance and all this like big energy, which gave us a lot of LA connections, which then gave us the software. We built the software that we needed to handle that, which turned into our own business. And I mean, just a lot of serendipity.
Oh, that's awesome.
So,
that's awesome. You said social media played a big role.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you first invited me to be on this podcast, I thought like this is probably a really good story to tell because, and I'd also encourage everyone to check out my co-founder, Jorgensen. She did an entire TEDx Women's talk on really how she's really the big piece behind our social media, but she used a lot of techniques really to like learn about where investors were and the ins and outs of, what it's like in the world of an investor to like get us to a point where we could find this stuff. And it was a friend in Utah that she connected with that connected to somebody else who was working at Zappos that connected us to the Downtown Project and all of this energy. Wow. So I mean it really is important to keep up on that stuff. I mean, because what one of the things she'll talk about in her TEDx Women's that really helped us is that when we went out to San Francisco to raise money originally, like we like just like fish out of water. Like we like we're all dressed up. Like in Utah, it's like I don't know, it's not so informal. Like we were like, yeah, gonna go pitch and like invest. Like so we put on suits and stuff, and like we just look so stupid. I remember like we went out to this Open Angel Forum with Jason Calacanis, and like, I mean, I just knew like the second I started our pitch, I was like, this is not gonna work. Like we're like overly dressed, like we're like stiff and static, and like it just didn't fit very well. So. After that, Jackie really sat down and started thinking like we didn't have to be as blind as we were. She's like, we can use social media. We can like see, we know the people that were in the room. Like we can go on the next round and figure out like who they're talking with and like what the dynamics are. And like, really just the fun things they do gives you an idea of like how serious they are or like what special market they feel they're good at investing in. And, we really were able to tear a lot of those pieces apart, which I think pointed us towards that lucky moment where we kind of, it came here and it really worked together. So
it's like find their Twitter handle.
Yeah.
And connect with them that way. And like, that's very, very interesting. I love that story because, I mean, the whole dressing up in suits, doing it the formal way or, connecting through social media, through Twitter, get to know who's serious, who's not, and like using that as your own research and be able to connect with people a lot quicker. Yeah,
well, when you talk with someone and you meet them for the first time, like, you have these standard things you can talk about. You're like, well, we all enjoy the weather or like deal with the weather. So it's like a topic. But really, I mean, the power is that somewhere, no matter how different they are from you, somewhere there's some overlap. Like, oh, I was in San Diego last week, or like I like Superman more than Batman. Like there's all this weird little stuff down there. And like social media, you can really using tools, you can really track their history and just catch something that makes more sense. And then that gives you such an easier way to like connect with somebody or find something relevant, so it's not a waste of a time.
Absolutely. And like for business, I mean, you might connect with someone, like you said, like Batman or a sports team. You guys might connect on that and then find out that you would be good for business together opposed to in their face, buy my stuff, check this out, connecting on a personal level. Yeah, no, I think that's all it really, in fact, I think that I mean, no matter how you get away with it, our brains are sort of built to stereotype in some ways. I mean, like if when I try to pitch to investors towards the end, and I thought we were starting to get pretty good at it, it was really just about leaving them with the message that like we care about this vertical, that we have history in this vertical, that we want to build a company. And then, and that we've been like, if you look at our past and our dealings, we've always like been honest and provided good value. And then if you can leave them with just a little chunk of who you are, like they're going to fill in all the blanks. You know what I mean? Right. So we spent a lot of time just figuring out a few pieces that really matter to the people and then just drilling those in over and over again instead of like letting the story drag on or like getting broader. Right. Just let them put the pieces together. At Startup Weekend, Rob Meadows, CEO of Originate, he gave a speech and he listed the like top 10 things they look for when investing in companies. And one of the things they were very adamant on is, besides how you're going to make money, was who's your team. Yeah. So like I'm just curious from your perspective, because you do have a team, like how important that is for these startups and for these people wanting to take their company to the next level. Yeah,
I mean, I'm like we have Rob on our podcast too, but yeah, I mean, he's absolutely right. Like nothing matters more than that. I mean, I heard who's it? For one of the Twitter investors was talking about Evan Williams, and he was like, yeah, like if he wants to start a hot dog stand, like I give him $1 billion. Like he just wants to win. Like he wants to do it, and like I believe in that person. And that's another thing. People talk about failing being such a good thing. Like really, that's what it is. Like a well executed failure is just it's just a tiny fraction away from a successful company.
Absolutely.
Like a well-executed failure is just almost there.
Yeah.
It's just almost like luck through a couple different rolls of the dice in a certain direction. But like a terrible executed failure comes down to the person not wanting it or not caring or not being right for it, you know? So, yeah, I totally believe in people.
Absolutely. That's awesome. And you mentioned Downtown Podcast. You do a show out here. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah.
What is the Downtown Podcast?
Well,
for those that don't know.
If you've only heard the lore and don't know the URL, it's downtownpodcast.tv. But, it's, not as professional as this. It's just something that we started because we live in the Ogden, which is really like one of the more centerpiece of downtown Las Vegas right now, where a lot of the residents are living. I mean, as it expands, there's a lot of stuff going on. But we moved our company out here and lived in that building, and just once again, the serendipity kind of came into play. Absolutely. Because we caught all these random people like that are coming to stay in the crash pads or visit the community, and they're just amazing people, entrepreneurs that back in Utah would have never even been around or given me a time of day. They were just hanging out in the halls, and they were open for conversation, and that all speaks to the importance of trying to be downtown right now because there's so much energy. And there was just a need for a podcast, so we started. We just, like you said, we just put our table up to the corner and like started at one episode, and there was plenty of energy. And then all these great volunteers. I've got so many people that helped. We calculated like 700-800 hours of volunteer work already have been put into it. And it's just people that like knew about audio, knew about video, like had connections to guests. Like Krista, she brought in Flavor Flav, like a few people. That was really fun. Yeah, that had one of the most alcohol-induced moments. But that was one of my favorites too. And I just think that it just kind of all the pieces were in place. But yeah, we just bring guests in, and they happen to be in the building, and they're really receptive to it. Now it's got a little bit of a following, and seems like it's well supported by the community. Yeah, and anyone that's in, especially if it's a local audience, we film every Thursday night at 9:00, and you can actually go to TicketCake.com, our other website, and you can sign up, and we just RSVP because it's like our living room. We run out of space at about like 30 or 40 people. But if you want to RSVP ahead of time, we can put your name on the guest list and bring anybody up who wants to see it and meet those people. And it's a great place to connect with the community downtown too. No, that's awesome. And I love how you guys I love the authenticity of it. You guys like you said, there's so much going on downtown. Like that needs to be covered, and how convenient. The Ogden's right there. Just come up to the Ogden. Come on the show real quick.
And
we take. Sometimes I take sponsors to pay for the beer, or maybe make like put a little bit of money towards the thing. But it's not funded by the downtown project. It's not not a for-profit entity. It's really just for us to like meet each other, and like for me to meet some of these guests.
Networking.
And I mean, there's so many advantages to it. But one of them is not like having to like cater to any corporate people or anything like that. So that's what I love about the media is we get to ask them whatever we want to, No,
absolutely. And that's downtownpodcast.tv.
Yeah.
You said? Absolutely.
Yeah, or YouTube /downtown podcast is really one of the best places. You can go back through history and see everything, but do all the editing and stuff. And
I feel
usually I try to do it every Sunday night, but yeah, that's right. We were talking about that. Yeah. That's good though.
No, and I think it's I don't know. I don't know about you, but like one of the best things I like about interviewing, and then when you edit it and you're watching it over and over again, is you learn. I feel like I've learned so much just, maybe like the first time I didn't hear, but then I'm watching it again as I'm editing, and I'm like, oh man, that was a really good point. So it's really
we had a psychologist on the podcast a little while ago that was talking about cognitive dissonance, and it's like kind of this issue where you're like, you sort of are you in your head, and then there's like you from the outside world, and like every time you see yourself on video or like on radio or hear your voice or something, there's like this terrible struggle in your head to be like, oh, that's not me. Like, like that's not what I can't be that goofy, or like, I don't have a lisp like that, or like, all these little things. And I think that over this like 26 episodes I've been editing it, I think the benefits of like watching myself for hours and hours on tape and kind of like thinking about how I look to the outside world has been really beneficial.
I
mean, I think I'm sure you're probably going through something similar where and it's the more connected you are with that real person, the more you can like be in moments, the more you can focus, the more you can really like kind of grow internally. So
no, that's a very good point. And no, I agree with you. Like from my episode 1 to like now, like you play quarterback. You watch like a football team would watch the game, and like, all right, I did that good, and I can do this, and this. And similar with social media, I don't know, at least for me, it's been a great platform for trial and error.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you kind of throw out to the market, you know, this perception or, you know, this image. I'm like, okay, you know, this has responded really well, or this doesn't work very well, and kind of you're able to mold yourself really.
Like, are you starting to get to the point where you like feel like you're on offense a little more than defense? Like in the sense, like, are you like now just like I need to make sure the camera's up and I have good questions, or are you kind of now like that's like second nature and you're like playful, and like do you feel like you're kind of on offense with this podcast?
I think so. It's to the point now. Like in the beginning, oh man, like the night before you're going over the questions, but now it's just kind of like, you know what, we know what to do. It's like in a rhythm now. Like we're just gonna sit down, we're gonna have a conversation.
Yeah, you can do it with the beer, and like it's a lot better. And
right, absolutely. We don't have any beer here right now, but
I know.
I don't know.
I wouldn't be coughing on this water if you did. Yeah,
that's water. Right. No, but I'm sure. What about you? Do you feel the same way, or do you feel like now?
Yeah, I think we're just starting to make that turn, and I'm sure like in another 10 episodes, I'll feel like we really weren't. But yeah, like for now, it seems like it's default enough the way we edit and film it that like I can actually think about like, oh, it'd be funny as if we like mess with the guest this way, or if we bring in a quadrocopter, or we like do a beer bong, like whatever it is. Now we can like kind of have more of a fun time, I think. And now it feels like it's hitting its stride too. You know, I can tell the quality seems to be going up as we focus more on like just actually making the entertainment, you know?
No, that's awesome. That's awesome. And congrats on all your guys' success with that. I think that's just real awesome what you guys have been able to build organically.
I mean, it's mostly built on the support of the community. So, I mean, it'd be nothing without those guys coming to, you know, we have an audience every episode that comes up just because they want to find value, and it's just our job to get that to them. So.
No, if you have people showing up, that means at least those people want it, you know, right? Oh, that's awesome. You being very active entrepreneur downtown and everything, what advice would you give to any entrepreneur that either wants to get involved with what's going on in downtown Las Vegas, or maybe just wants to become an entrepreneur in general?
Well, I mean, I hate to have the whole conversation revolve around the podcast, but that question is like why the podcast existed. Right. So, I mean, if you tune into like the last episode that's uploaded, the one that's uploading right now, like it will have we try to cover the most important events that you could attend. So if you don't know anything about the community or you're visiting, it'll tell you where you can go. And there's a bunch of resources. I mean, VegasTech.com has some stuff, and there's a few people compiling other resources too, but definitely you can like Google for it. I can't remember them all right now, but you can Google for like events that are there, and then depending on your, you know, if you're into a certain type of tech or you're in a certain type of entrepreneurship, there's a lot of groups for it. But I mean, I point people towards the podcast for that reason. We talk about news and events and the people that are down there this week that you could go down and visit. So that's a good spot. And then, you know, the hub, like the heart of it, I think is the Beat, the coffee house down there.
Place.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the few places where you know you should go and just keep your headphones out and like listen to the people around you and just chime into their conversations, because that's the environment that they've built, you know. Or like Work in Progress is a co-working studio. If people want to be entrepreneurs and they get off work, they can, you know, pay a really minimal fee to be there at night, and then they can be surrounded by all the same people if they've got a business idea or want to connect with people.
And then Zappos going to be having their headquarters.
Yeah. I mean, that's right out our window. Yeah, I mean, all that stuff. So, you know, just anything really down in that area is good. But yeah, between that coffee shop, Work in Progress, and online resources like our podcast is one of them, they should be able to find out what's going on. And you'll be surprised. I mean, spend just a little bit of time to figure out what's going on down there, and you can connect with some amazing people.
And it's crazy. Like, it kind of does feel like once you go down there enough, you kind of feel like you're back on college campus.
Yeah.
Again, you just start running, especially at the Beat. I mean, the Beat, that seems where everyone's in and out there.
Well, it's so I mean, and really, this like return on community focus is about like, you know, you don't need to go down there and sell anything. You don't need to go down there and like feel pressure even. Like, there really is a place where you just go at, like, with your interests and the things you like doing, and then see where it collides. You know, the more hours you can get down there, the more collisions you can have. So.
Serendipity.
Yeah, that's really
I've heard that word more, but now, like, now that I've heard that word, now it keeps happening. Like, serendipity keeps happening. So, no, that's awesome. Well, Dylan, thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate it. So, any last shout-outs, and where can they find you, and any last shout-outs to the podcast?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it. But, yeah, there's the downtownpodcast.tv. TicketCake.com if anybody has an event that, you know, they want to connect us to, either a small local one that we do for our return on community, or like a big festival or something like that. It's always helpful. And at Dylan.tv is my website, and it's got links to my social. If anyone wants to email or connect, I'm happy to, and see if I can do it. It's one of my favorite things, is connecting people to other people. So
that's awesome. And they need to check out your TEDx talk that you did in Reno.
Oh yeah, that was I'll admit that was pretty good.
Brilliant job. You did an amazing job.
Turned out pretty well, better than my usual stuff. But yeah, that was we walk people through the hero's journey, if anyone's familiar with that, and how they kind of created a whole little ecosystem downtown that helps keep you motivated. So
awesome.
Yeah. Okay.
Awesome. Well, Dylan, thank you so much. I appreciate you
thanks,
coming
man.
out.
I appreciate
we look forward
it. Yeah.
to talking to you in the future, and best of luck with everything you're doing.
All right. I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.